As promised, it's another round of salty takeaways and bitter ends. I don't quite think that we're going to have the latter unless you're talking about penalty calls late. Atlanta United gets the 3-2 win over Columbus. And it is Jarrett, it is Jon, and I guess let's just go ahead and hit it. Opening statement, Jarrett Smith.
Trae Young once said, "Your apology needs to be as loud as your criticism was." And I hope that is being retweeted to an extent that it's breaking keyboards by Ezequiel Barco and Joseto and
Marcelino Moreno.
I mean, I'd like to think we're past it with Moreno. If you're still on him after the last month he's had, then I can't help you and you have an agenda at that point to me. If you think he's been a problem for the last month, then that's a problem. Then that's an internal problem you need to have a conversation with your personal Jesus about. Because it's been coming. This performance has been coming. And I'm very impressed with how they were able to get it done. Well played, y'all. But just also a very big FU performance for me for some of these guys who I've been critical of too. And we'll get into it. But your apology and your recognition got to be as loud as your criticism. And if you feel like you need to see more, I will completely understand that. But you got to give props for what we just saw last night. Damn. They rolled into Columbus and put their feet up on Columbus's couch.
So I guess this would be where we insert the Dave Chappelle, Rick James sketch gif of the boots on the white.
Indubitably.
Yeah, the white cover that is on the sofa, and you're just sitting there and you're kicking up all the mud and everything.
Oh yeah, that's what you're doing.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look at some of the numbers, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. No surprise, Ezequiel Barco an 8.9 in the match against Columbus. Marcelino Moreno at 8.2. Then you have some sevens in there. Bello at a 7.3. Santi Sosa at a 7. The rest are sixes, ranging from Josetu at a 6.9 down to Brad Gazan at a 6.1. And one of the things that, if you were looking at Columbus coming in, Columbus in the juice boxes was a minus 110. Your draw a plus 260. Atlanta United a plus 300. Columbus has been a sieve defensively as of late, giving up 4 with a lot of absences to a DC United club coming into this one, and then getting some folks back, but you're still giving up 3 to Atlanta United. So in the last 2 games, Columbus has given up 7 goals, and it hasn't been pretty for them. And Atlanta United exposed them right now. Absences, injuries, schedule compression, whatever factors you want to include into this. But Atlanta United exposed Columbus in transition, which was one of the things that Caleb Porter was concerned about.
It was, and man, I think it was Matt Doyle said it last night when asked about Columbus. He's like, Columbus hasn't been playing well. They haven't been. They've been able to paper over some of their mistakes with good work by Caleb Porter, who is such a good heel manager. I don't care for the way he conducts himself. I think he's a great manager, though.
Mm-hmm.
But they've kind of papered over some stuff. Like, I go back, there was a game early. I cannot remember who they were playing earlier this year. They were playing a game where they looked awful. They gave up 2 goals. They probably should have given up like 4 or 5, but they only gave up 2. And then they get like a set piece goal, and then Zelarayan like steals a goal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, they were kind of papering over things, for lack of a better word. And I don't mean it. And I know that sounds really petty, and I don't necessarily mean it that way, because it's good to be able to, like, when you get points from games you're not in. That's what you have to do. That's what Atlanta's got to start doing. I've talked about Atlanta's got to start stealing points. They did last night. Columbus has done that this year. But right now they're not doing that. And they got some questions they got to answer, because somebody pointed out last night, Atlanta's starting lineup is what, like...
The starting lineup last night for
5
Atlanta
years
United,
on average?
Yeah, 24.6. The first 11 average age is 24.6, and I know that Jackson Conway skews that a little bit. Columbus's starting 11 average age 29.7. So 5.1, that's your difference in average age with the players in these two starting lineups.
Jason and I talked about it last year. When we were doing the wrap up of MLS Cup and we did a watch along, we talked about those teams having to get younger. Columbus didn't get a lot younger. They had some younger players go down with injuries, and they've had some injury luck. Everybody's had bad injury luck this year. It feels like a lot of people go down injured around the league. But Porter's going to have to turn that roster over sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
because they're not getting any younger. And you can do it piece by piece. Like I think he's capable of doing it piece by piece. But you're going to have to start getting it turned over sooner rather than later, man, because you get deeper into the season, the legs get a little bit heavier. And, man.
I know. Looking at some of their numbers from SofaScore, Jonathan Mensah, their captain, had an 8.2. Scary moment.
Jonathan Mensah doesn't know his own last name anymore.
No, and that's a concerning point for me going forward. When Jackson Conway launched a volley from 6 feet away, maybe, and it absolutely hit Jonathan Mensah flush. And there was a lot of concern. Physios came out, stretcher came out for Jonathan Mensah, but he stayed in the match. That to me was a point of concern. Obviously, he passed the tests that the physios and the medical director gave to him in those moments. But also Mensah was responsible for the goal that closed things up a little bit. But Jonathan Mensah led them last night with an 8.2. Then you had Nagbe and Luis Diaz with 7s, Zella Ryan with a 7.9. Everybody else was a 6 on the board. Eloy Room a 6 flat, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore.
I mean, they weren't terrible, man. But I mean, you put yourself in a 2-0 hole. And Caleb Porter described it perfectly after the game. Talked about his defense was stabbing at the ball, and buddy, they were stabbing at the ball like nobody's business. This is one of the reasons they gave up 2 penalties. Marcelino Moreno was out there like doing a 15-step and threw it in and out of the box. And Columbus just like, it was kind of that thing where like they didn't really look sure about how they wanted to actually defend. So like they're letting it get up on them instead of being, and it's a tricky thing to like say, oh, they need to be more proactive in defense. Well, at the same time, I get that. At the same time, man, you can't let him like dribble up on you all the way. Like I get wanting to let the guy make the first move. I know you talk about this in hockey of making the attacker make the first move. But I mean, he was getting up in your lunchbox.
Yep.
And by the time you made a move, he's already thinking about the next move, and you're stabbing at air.
And your Doritos and your sandwich have been taken from your lunchbox. And
then not even the good Doritos. This is the 3D Doritos from back in like 2002. The really good Doritos, the puffy 3D ones that came in a plastic cup with a lid that you could use as a cup that your mom gave you on the road trip to shut you up. Good Doritos.
Yeah. Here's a look at your stats at the end of the night. Ball possession went to Atlanta United 53-47, shots 17-11, 7 shots on target for Atlanta United, 6 corners to 2 on the night. Fouls called 12-12, yellow cards 2-1 to Atlanta United. Big chances, all of these lean naturally toward Atlanta United. 3 big chances, 1 woodwork. You had 2 counters, 2 shots off counters, shots inside the box, 11-8, shots outside, 6-1, 3 saves for Eloy Room, passing at 84% for Atlanta United in accuracy. Then you get into long balls, 58% to 51. Dribbles, 76% for Columbus, 60% for Atlanta United, 18-12 in tackles for Columbus, 16-10 in interceptions, 11-10 in clearances. And when you look at second half numbers, let me get into the second half numbers specifically after Atlanta had pulled ahead. 9 shots in the second half for Atlanta United to 3 for Columbus when they're trailing. Shots on target, 4-1, off target, 3-1, 2 blocks, 3 corners, 2 offsides. Remember, 2 goals were called back from Columbus for offside calls using VAR. All of the offensive statistics are in the blue, which means Atlanta United is leading each and every one of them. 87% accurate passes in the second half and had 7-15 in long balls at 47%. So a lot of these numbers, specifically when Columbus is having to come back from trailing, Atlanta United still is in charge of most of the match, short of the penalty call and all that kind of stuff. The second half, Columbus could get nothing going.
That was the thing that I think impressed me most. Like, ignore the fact that, I mean, yeah, you've had to, I shouldn't say ignore, because you should give notice to the fact that you gave up 2 goals. They got called back. The first one, I'm still not sure. Like, the angle was so weird, I couldn't tell if he was actually on or not.
I think he was off slightly, and it was
just such a bad camera angle. It was impossible to tell. So you're deferring to the AR, who did his job. Like, he kept the flag down to wait to see what would happen. I thought Guzan's got to do better on that personally. If you're going to come out like that, you got to at least make it work for it. And I didn't think he did. But that's, hey, you know what? It's neither here nor there. It didn't hurt anybody. But the second one, yeah, he was off. You still want to be cleaner on those set pieces, but I mean, the rest of the way, aside from Alan Franco giving away a penalty that was kind of silly in my opinion, he didn't need to make that play. You took the air out of the ball. Columbus is the one chasing the game. And honestly, Columbus, watching them play is how I felt like the shoe was on the other foot for Atlanta, where when Atlanta's been on this streak and they're trying to find a ball to try and get to tie the game up, this is how it feels watching them when they're like that, is how I imagined Columbus was feeling last night, where Atlanta just was like, I thought Columbus was going to get Olayed in their own stadium because Atlanta was just like running passing drills on them. They were so calm on it. They were so composed. I was very proud of it. Like, I thought Columbus was going to get Olayed in their own building, which would have been hilarious if it happened. I don't think that'll ever happen in America, just so we're clear.
Right.
But damn, Atlanta just took the air out of the ball and took the air out of anything Columbus wanted to do to get back in the game.
Standings right now in the East heading into Sunday's play. Atlanta United snaps a 12-match winless run. They're in 10th. They are 6 points below the playoff bar right now at 3-9-6 at 18 points, goal difference of -4. Columbus at 6-6-6. Take that however you want. And that's why I read it the way that I did. After 18 matches, 24 points as well. And they are behind DC United in wins and in goal difference. When it came to the end, there's one player that I want to talk about at the end of the match. First off, Jackson Conway plays 63 minutes. Cubo Torres comes in and plays the other 27. I
know where we're going with this, and I'm excited.
And Cubo Torres, we had the feeling that with Jackson, you were going to get probably 60 or 70. Cubo Torres would come in, give you his energy, run the defense into the ground in the final 20 to 30 minutes that he was there. But a special shout out, man of the match performance for his dark arts PhD that Cubo Torres gave in the final minutes.
So Kubo backed that thing up for a good 15 seconds in the corner in one of my favorite corner routines I think I've ever seen in my life. That man put the ball in the corner and put his foot on it so it wouldn't move, and then just kept timing those little hip checks every time they tried to get around him. He'd just throw that hip a little bit, throw him off. He'd wait. They'd start to make the push on him. He'd throw that hip a little bit, get him off. Kubo is a part of that conversation of, man, your criticism, your appreciation of that moment needs to be as loud as your criticism was. Kubo has not been able to hit the broadside of a barn this year. I completely understand that. I completely agree with it. I called for Jackson Conway to start this game because while he is not as well-rounded, I thought he is a higher risk-reward player. He didn't give you that. It was more risk tonight, which is fine. Young players are going to give you that. Kubo was a consummate professional. That man came in and Rob Valentino said, "Hey, I need you to help me kill this game off." And Kubo went, "Okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit on the ball. And then when they tackle me, I'm going to lay there for 30, 45 seconds. And I'm going to get under everyone's skin. Y'all are welcome." I loved it, Kubo. I loved it so much. It made me so happy.
Yeah. That was one of the best dark arts elements of killing out a match I have seen in quite some time. And I will stipulate that I was in a public establishment watching this match, and obviously with all of the positives that happen, you would have the roar go up in the establishment as Cubo Torres is killing the clock with foot on the ball with the right, hip check with the left to give himself some space, continuing to frustrate the Columbus players. Folks were completely and totally into Cubo Torres in the corner doing what he was doing, killing the clock.
It was so good. And it was so vital. It gave the defense time to rest. After you give up that penalty goal, you're thinking, oh man, here we go again. We're right back in a situation where it's like oh man, we're going to blow a 2-goal lead again, aren't we? We're just feels like you're never going to win another road game or another game period. Excuse me, not even a road game. No, Kubo just decided to come in and kind of lead that front line in that way. And it was just so magnificent. It was just exactly what you needed to give that defense a break. You're pinning them down where you're just getting corner after corner. It was wonderful for Kubo. That's what Kubo can be. With the health of Joseph, you're not asking Kubo Torres to start every game. In the same sense that, 2 years ago, you didn't come in expecting Breck Shea to start every right back game. I know we're already kind of flipping the narrative correctly on Frank DeBoer of, well, actually, Frank DeBoer wasn't that bad. We won 2 trophies and we were, an insanely unbalanced Eastern Conference final away from hosting a second straight MLS Cup.
Mm-hmm.
I get that's changing. Let's go ahead and add the Breck Shea conversation to that as well, because Breck Shea wasn't brought here to be your starting right back. Breck Shea was bought here to back up a very young George Bello who's supposed to get those moments that year and just didn't because he wasn't able to stay healthy. Like, Kubo was not supposed to be your starter, man. Adam John wasn't supposed to be your starter last year. They're there because guys got hurt. In this case, Joseph got suspended. Jackson Conway looks more and more like that guy who can compete for those minutes. But that right there is what Kubo can give you. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Kubo gave you.
Mm-mm.
Give me more of that.
In front of a crowd of just over 20,000 at lower.com, 20,094. Alan Chapman was the center ref. And let's get into what some of the folks were thinking here as we wrap up the half hour. The fastest half hour on SDH is traditionally how we try to play this when it comes to salty takeaways. And we will start with Abby. Abby says, how about the cards given for hardly anything and then hard fouls later in the game with no card? The consistency of Alan Chapman for Abby.
I didn't hate Alan Chapman, which is something I'm not always saying. I thought he got the penalties right. I understand the criticism of the penalties for if you're Columbus, because Columbus is in a situation where you're feeling like everything you're feeling like everything is kind of going against you right now. Like you can't seem to get off the schneid. You got whipped by DC at home. Atlanta broke their duck against you at home. Like Columbus got some problems. They're going to feel like things are going against them. I thought he got those penalties right. I thought the first one was soft, but there was contact.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's one of those, you're not going to overturn it if we go and look at it for VAR, in my opinion.
Right.
And then the one that Franco made late in the game, absolutely got dead on. Terrible decision by Franco in that moment to go up. It was unnecessary, and Chapman nailed it perfectly. The offsides, like I said, I couldn't get a good look at the first offside goal that was pulled back. The second one,
I thought it was
slightly.
Right, I thought it was slightly, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd have to go back and look at it. But Jesus, I mean, I didn't hate Chapman. Yeah.
A lot of folks, Nathan Pugh, Jillian Gaffigan. All right, so I'm just going to run this down. Nathan, and it's about Cubo Torres. Nathan Pugh. Kubo for man of the match for his epic blankhousery performance at the corner flag.
It was so perfect because you hate it when it's happening to you, and then you get like Kubo Torres, who's like in kind of this starter / I think he's working toward the next stage in his career, coaching role in his life, and Kubo is just out here like, I'm just gonna show you young kids how it's done. Which is amazing because Atlanta's roster is so full of players from all over the world that surely know how to do all of these dark arts. And Kubo's like, watch this, young buck.
Jillian Gaffigan says Kubo won an Olympic gold medal there in the corner.
It was so beautiful. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Let's see. David at Who Took My Thrash. With 3 center backs, Sosa's hunting for the ball on offense and is pushing the team in non-transition possession. Is this look here for good?
Good question. Might be a thing where, Atlanta did what they did because of the way Columbus lined up. I don't know.
And that's how I'm looking at it, where I'm viewing it as a case-by-case basis. If you have a situation where say Santi Sosa, or we've seen it in the past with George Campbell or Miles Robinson, if there's an opportunity for them to engage, go forward, and be a key part of an offensive possession, if the space is there, they should take it and become engaged and be, and go further forward than we're used to seeing them. I'm taking it as a case-by-case basis. What Santi Sosa did is part of an equation if it's available to them. It was against Columbus.
It was. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do going forward. I mean, I think you found something, though, and we can get back to the disrespect and appreciation thing. Mateus Susetu is in the house right now that I had Emerson Hyman in to start the year of. You need to show me something, because decisions are going to be getting made next year, maybe even by the end of this year, next 6 to 12 months. Decisions are going to be getting made on contracts. You need to show me you deserve to stay. If he's going to play like he did last night, Mateus Susetu can stay as long as he'd like. He can put his feet up on my couch and I won't feel bad. I thought he was wonderful last night.
Sometimes there are folks that do their job, and when they do their job, they're not spoken of. And that means that they did their job well.
I literally named an award after Carlos Carmona because of this. We never, I feel like Carlos Carmona just quietly was out there wrecking people's lives back in the day.
Yeah. And just because you can wreck somebody quietly doesn't mean that, you have to sit there and wave a flag about it. Sometimes some folks like to do it loudly. Some folks like to sit there and surprise you and, just kind of come up behind you and be the guy that, lays down right behind you and have somebody else push you over the top of you and make you fall down. It's like that old trick from high school. Yeah. Just one of those things. Tiki-taka. How many guys had their best game as an Atlanta United player? Moreno, Husetu, Bello, Barco, Kubo, and Franco until that terrible penalty. Tiki-taka says basically if your name ends in O, you balled out.
Yeah, it was the night of the O. It was very impressive. It was everything I wanted to see out of a lot of those guys. Like Marcelino Moreno continues to do what we know he's capable of. Mm-hmm. Marcelino Moreno looks like that guy who you brought in last year that had people so excited. It was so frustrating earlier this season when people, I think, were ready to call him a bust. Look, end of 2020 was kind of a bleak time in life in general for a lot of people, and especially for Atlanta United. Marcelino Moreno was one of the good parts about it. And then you end up with Marcelino Moreno can't really seem to – he's actually creating chances, winning dribbles this year, but it felt like it wasn't always in dangerous spots. Well, now he's back to doing that. Marcelino Moreno looks like he can be an absolute monster in this league. Yeah. Just his ability to create, to really put the defense under intense pressure. And if this is the Ezequiel Barco you're going to get going forward of Rob Valentino, I think talked about, if, basically, hey, Barco, I need you to do these things defensively and then you can just do you offensively. If he's going to be that aggressive and driving, that's what I want to see from Barco. And I talked about it last night. Never underestimate having 3 people who are nails on penalties. You know what Joseph is on the penalty from the spot. Barco has taken penalties in Copa Sudamericana, and Moreno has shown you he doesn't care who's in goal. He'll knock them in. You have 3 guys who you can turn to, and you trust them to put the ball in the back of the net from the spot. Go ask Toronto how that feels when they were giving penalties to Josie, and it was just an emotional roller coaster every time he did.
Speaking of Barco, Griffin Westbrook was in, and he says, much like the newspaper hawker from the old black and white movies from the 1920s or the early color films from the 30s and 40s, Barco for sale, Barco for sale. Read all about it. Come get your Barco. I'm not so sure.
Oh, man.
Well, yeah. And considering what Barco said with all of the discussion that we've been having about Thiago Almada, Barco looking forward to playing with Almada. Of course, you want to say those kinds of things, but obviously in the global landscape, if someone comes to you in the international theater and is interested in Ezequiel Barco, is interested in George Bello, is interested in Miles Robinson, it behooves you as a business to listen.
Yeah, Sam Vines just got sold. Barco might be the next left back to leave the United States of America. Bello might. Excuse me. I see, and I'm with a lot of people. I think Barco missed the first pass where he could have played Bello in behind. Plays it to Bello's feet, and Bello was like, "Cool, I can improvise. We can play and then." Because then he just back heels it casually. No big deal.
Yeah, that woke up the establishment that I was watching the match in, by the way.
It was so beautiful. Look, I mean, Barco's playing like this. Barco's going to be in a situation where he is going to be in demand, which is good. What you want.
Yeah. Rope says Barco put the word out. He's ready. Really good offensive showing. Would have loved a clean sheet, but much happier with a W.
You and me both. I'm pulling out my hair for a clean sheet if I can get it. Please, God, just please. That's all I really want is a clean sheet.
Yeah.
Makes you miss the days of
set pieces.
You know, it was boring for folks, I guess, but when Frank de Boer had him, pulling off the clean sheets left and right, but they were winning games 1-0. Man, I miss clean sheets.
Yeah.
My heart ain't built for this, y'all.
No. Lieutenant Dave, not salty, but the more I see, the more I think Valentino is clicking with the team. He's getting more out of his players with every match. The front office may want to pull back and see what they have here. He's not alone in that assessment, trying to see who else. Yes, Tafka. If the front office decided to ride with Valentino for the rest of the season, I'm fine with that. The players clearly love him, but regardless, I would suggest the following. Whatever coach is hired, they have to agree to Valentino staying on as an assistant. Seems like the perfect candidate to serve as the understudy in training. Let him assist in the first team, then give him the twos for a while, have him ready to take the first team permanently down the road. I mean, Valentino was basically given a role because before his time as interim, because he was held in such high regard by the organization. So I think that this continued relationship that we've seen with Atlanta United as an organization and Valentino has come across in many forms over the years, and it just so happens that this go-round, he's the interim coach, respected by the veteran players who are there, known by the younger players who've worked their way up through the system. So you have that harmonic convergence of relationships, and you could see it. There was the one picture that was posted on social media after the match where I believe it was Brad Gazan basically drenching, I'm guessing it was Rob, considering that the individual in the center of the photograph in the locker room was being mobbed. I imagine it was a wet Rob Valentino that was getting mobbed by the players after being drenched by Brad Gazan. So the relationship is there.
Yeah, it seems certainly like it. I don't know what you do, man. I don't know what you do in this situation if you're Atlanta United, because they talked about still wanting to bring in a full-time manager. Yeah. There's a lot of push right now to keep Rob. And I think Rob has some growing to do as a manager because this is something new to him. It's unfair to expect him to come in. It would be unfair for him to expect him to come in here and just go gangbusters. If he did, I would be over the moon for him. But I want to make sure folks are realistic about it. I mean, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just want to make sure folks are realistic about, this is him, like, he's getting his feet wet and he's sharpening up on this, and he clearly knows what he's doing.
I mean, he admitted after the previous match to Columbus that he himself made a strategic mistake in not substituting after Joseph got the red in Montreal. So he's learning in all of this as well, to your point, to where he's learning about situations and how to adjust and what needs to be done here and there. So this is about as heavy on the job training situation as you can get.
It is, and I think he's done really well with it. And it's important to learn. And he's learning, and he'll make mistakes, and he'll nail things, and then he'll miss things. It happens. It's okay. It's not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, I mean, you're getting more and more people pushing for that. And depending on how the next results or two go, I mean, you might look at that and you might say, hey, we're going to just kind of see how this goes. And I don't know. I mean, I don't
because
want to put words in anybody's mouth in the front
right,
office about this.
right. But there is the notion of bringing in an individual who would be on an X number of years plus a half contract. They'd have to hit the ground running. They'd have to know MLS. They would have to understand that the goal this season is to get into the playoffs and make up the now 6-point deficit between where Atlanta United is and seventh place, and then continue to build from there. And so there are those two schools of thought where if your caretaker manager continues to be successful and is liked and appreciated by the team and they're responding to him, then does your search head toward the way that it was when Atlanta United was going after eventually Gabriel Heinze at the beginning of the 2021 season, where you had Stephen Glass as your interim manager, finish the season, then you make your hire for the following season, having them start from the offseason and working forward. So I do understand both schools of thought here.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I would like to see him get the opportunity. We're just going to have to see how it goes. I mean, that's kind of where it is. It sucks right now because he's doing well with this opportunity, and I'm with you. I hope that if they decide to bring someone in, that he stays on.
Yeah.
I think
I imagine you'll have, and like I said, I imagine that because of past relationships and how he was as highly regarded, that they would put him in a role, that the organization would find a role for him. So he's continuing to have those relationships with the players and is the guy who everybody can go to and say, okay, well, almost like he's the guy that's been here before and he knows what's going on and how to respond in certain situations, and he knows what the guys respond to when it comes to conversations and how to have things integrated with them. So no, having Rob here has been part of the long term with Atlanta United, and I imagine he'll continue to stay in some capacity. But we'll see where things go with the remainder of this season with him as your interim manager and the search for the new head coach, Michael Head. Yeah, Owen, Barco, and Moreno were amazing, and we talked about the two of them. Michael does have a question that I do not have an answer to, but he's probably right on. He wants to know, do we have a percentage of the surrendered goals given up off set pieces? It seems like a lot. I would hope the squad focuses intently on set piece defense this week. Gold star to Kubo for closing out the match.
And it always feels like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like we give up a lot of goals off set pieces. It feels like it's been that way since back in the day.
Yes.
It feels like it's always been that way, and that sucks. Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is on it, but even the second goal that's called offside, it comes off of a ball being put back in the mixer after you cleared a set piece. So, not great, Bob.
No, but that seems to be the constant that we all reference in the Atlanta United season so far is set pieces. I feel like Alexi Lawless. Set pieces, set pieces, set pieces. And that wraps up what's going on Twitter. Thanks to everybody who was a part of the conversation. Send in your thoughts after the 3-2 win in Columbus. And, there's a little time to think about things. Next home match is against LAFC on a week from today, as we're talking on Sunday. When it comes to this particular match in Columbus, closing statement, Jarrett Smith.
Like I said, your apology needs to be as loud as your criticism. That goes for a lot of players. It doesn't have to be a uniform saying we were wrong and they're great forever and ever, amen. Doesn't have to be that. But got to acknowledge when guys stepped up, and they stepped the hell up. A number of guys did. They've been stepping up for a while. They put it all together last night. And I thought you should have gotten a road win in Montreal. You got the win last night. You keep putting 3 points on the board. You put pressure above you on the people above you. You increase your chances. I'm going to go with Rob Usser. He put on his piece on Dirty South Soccer. He pulled out the quote from Lou Brown of, you win 10 in a row. You win 3 in a row. That's called a winning streak.
Well, the winning streak.
Happened before. Get on a winning streak now. You need to. You're running out of real estate to not have a good winning streak under your belt. So continue to do that. Build on those performances. If you guys like Josetu, if you guys like Barco, like Marcelino Moreno, and then you get Joseph back, and you get a new winger in the fray here, you're starting to cook with some good oil. See what happens.
And we'll talk about it all week long as we get ready for the next matches for Atlanta United. Big win, 3-2 for Atlanta United in Columbus. We talk about stealing points. As an underdog, you stole points. He's at Jarrett_Smith. I'm at OSG Nelson. Remember, Soccer Down here, 9 a.m. daily, Monday through Friday until 11, whenever the show ends is when the show ends.
Time's fluid. Time is a scam is what it is.
Yeah, time is a scam. So we'll talk about it on Monday. Thanks for listening. Jarrett, send us home.
Much plot to y'all. Take care of yourselves.